Hey everyone, hope you're having a great day today. I just want to give you guys a quick disclaimer. One, I'm super emotional right now because I literally just finished reading this 2 minutes ago and I was like, I need to make a video about this because it was just so good. And also disclaimer for spoilers, I'm going to try not spoil too much really big plot stuff, but if you guys do plan on reading this, then I would say maybe hold off until you've at least read like maybe a couple of chapters of the first book. Anyway, so I just finished this series called the Grishaverse, otherwise probably known as the Shadow and Bone series. I have just been calling it the Shadow and Bone series. I think it's though just called the Grishaverse, and it was phenomenal. And I, just wanted to come on here and talk about it because there were some themes in here that I feel like we can relate to our faith, but also just to talk about how amazing this series was. So as a lot of you guys know who have been on this channel for a while, I love reading. I always try to have a book, going. I actually just bought a new book yesterday because I knew that I would be finishing book number 3 in this series today. So I'm really excited to start that one. I may even start it tonight, if not tomorrow. But basically, this series, the Grishaverse, all started when I was on Netflix trying to find a new series to watch, and I came across this series called Shadow and Bone, and I saw, and I remember it looked really good on the trailer or the intro that it had, and I remember reading the description, and it said, based on the book series, and I was like, oh, no, we're reading the books. So I went out and bought it. I just bought book 1 because I didn't know if I was going to like it or not. And I literally finished this book in a week, maybe less than a week, because it was just so good. Basically, it's a fantasy series that is surrounding I don't know if you could call it a medieval, but it's basically a fictional fictional land based off of, I think, Russia. And there's essentially this sea, they call it the Unsea, but there's this part of land in the middle that is just pure darkness called the Fold. And basically the story follows the main character. Her name is Alina, and her basically trying to navigate this. Basically, she finds out that she has, spoilers, please, spoilers. So if you haven't read it, I would skip this part. Basically, she realizes she has the power to summon light. By the way, I should mention there are people in the land that have powers. Some people don't have powers, some people do have powers, and for the most part they are able to coexist fine, which is kind of surprising because I feel like when you have in series people who are one way and people who are another way, usually there's like conflict, but for some reason there's not, which I think is kind of interesting and cool. Basically, there are these people called Grisha who are the ones who study small science, which would kind of be called magic, but they make it known they're like, this is not magic. Magic is something that's kind of like forbidden in this place. They call it small science, which is essentially like people who can summon wind or fire, but they can't summon it just out of nothing. They need like a flint if they want to start a fire, but they're able to like bend it. They kind of are able to, I guess, bend the atoms in a way that could kind of be seen as if they have power, but it's not magic. It's hard to explain. Essentially, this book series was amazing. I don't want to go into any more because I don't want to spoil it, but it's really good. And I can't talk because I'm just so overwhelmed. I wanted to go over some points. I'm going to try and talk slower. I'm sorry. There are some points that I wanted to go over that I feel like are really cool, not only just for, our faith. If you're new to this channel, hi, I'm Jack. This is a channel where we discuss, Christianity and all that good stuff. But obviously we like to talk about, other things as well. So I kind of wanted to go into a couple of points. The first one that I noticed is that the main antagonist or the villain, and by the way, I love studying villains. I find the analysis of villains to be so interesting because I feel like when you learn where they've come from, it's kind of like you're able to sympathize with them. And the villain in this series is definitely one that I think, can sympathize with, and one that they've very much humanized. Basically, there's this character called the Darkling, and he can summon darkness. And by the way, this is something that is very weird for this. This is in the land, in this fictional world. Darkness is not something that people can normally summon, even the people who are, summoners. Usually people are either healers, which are called corporal kai. They're kind of like, I would say they're kind of more military, but they can also do stuff with, healing and that kind of stuff. ethereal, I call them ethereal leaky. I think it's actually ethereal kai, who basically summon like elements or can, manage elements like fire and wind. And then there's material leaky, or I think it's material kai. I kept saying ethereal leaky, material leaky. I think that's wrong. I think it's material kai, ethereal kai. But material kai, who essentially have the power to fabricate and, warp metal and, different kinds of fabrics. They're really gifted in, materials things. And so there's this character, the Darkling, who can bend darkness. And he's the only one of his kind. And this drives him to being very, he doesn't really trust anybody. He kind of has been viewed as otherized, his whole life. Let me turn some lights on because I just realized it's getting very dark. As we're talking about the Darkling, by the way, I'm not wearing black to support the Darkling. I'm just lazy. The Darkling essentially has gone his whole life as, being otherized, not only just by other people, but I feel like he also otherized himself, where he's like, okay, you guys want to otherize me? Then screw all y'all. I'm, it's me against you now, kind of. And I feel like this drives really close to home with the importance and idea of community. And as you guys know on here, I talk about community a lot, and something that's very important, because when you don't have community and when you feel misunderstood and hated by everyone and like no one gets you, like the Darkling in this series, it leads you to not only feel otherized by other people, but otherizing yourself compared to everybody. Like, no one gets me, no one's gonna understand me, everybody hates me. And I feel like, again, you unfortunately see this a lot in the church, and people who struggle with things that are maybe not as understood by other people, whatever that may be, whatever form that takes. My hair is not looking good today, I apologize, but whatever form that takes, you are going to have that unfortunate, a lot of times it manifests into that mentality where a lot of people who have been hurt by the church, who have felt misunderstood, eventually leave and then just have this bitterness towards the church. And it makes me so upset, because God's not about that. God, again, it makes me so frustrated, because God says so many times, all are welcome, all who come to me, believe on the Lord Jesus Christ and thou shalt be saved. So many times we see this, just wanting to draw in everybody. But unfortunately, in church, people can make cliques and it's not so great. But again, that's why I always say, like, if you're someone who feels misunderstood, it's so important to find community. And unfortunately, the church needs to do, I think, a better job of that, offering that community to, people who it maybe hasn't done that with as much. But again, that's kind of this theme that we see, is this in this character, the Darkling. He's so obsessed with the main protagonist, Alina, the Sun Summoner, because even though she's kind of like his polar opposite, where the whole time, he's like, it's supposed to be you and me, it's supposed to be you and me. Finally, there's someone who gets it, because sun summoning is not something that's like normal either. The main character, Alina, she can summon light, and that's not normal either. So the Darkling and Alina are constantly, going at it. They're, definitely against each other, but the Darkling almost kind of doesn't even want it this way. Deep down, he really wants her. And it's funny, because Alina, the main protagonist, even though she's against the Darkling the whole time until the very end, she's still sympathizing for him. She's still having empathy towards him, because she's like, I get it. I wholeheartedly understand what it's like, because he tells her, he's like, the world doesn't understand your power. And she's like, yeah, it doesn't, the world views her as a saint because they just don't understand her. And, she feels, again, not very understood by people. Her best friend, the boy who she actually really likes, is kind of not really scared of her, but, he wishes she was just, normal and ordinary, so she definitely understands the villain and the Darkling. Another theme that I feel like is talked about a lot is, this idea of greed and power, and kind of this insatiable hunger that we as people have for, something more. And in the book, it's specifically about power, but, I feel like that can go with a lot of things. And, that's why I think it's so important that we, be content with what we have, or be appreciative rather of what we have. I understand, in life, there are things that we wish were different. I 110% have things in my life that I wish were different. But, I think it's important to remember the things that we do have, because even when you get something that you want, there's always going to be something more. And in this series, it really just kind of explores this idea of the unending greed of man and how, you know, the lengths of which you'll go to achieve your goal, and in the end it might not be that good. So anyway, I'm gonna try and keep this short because we're already at 11 minutes, and I know that I can just keep going on forever and ever and ever about this series because there's so much that I want to talk to, but again, unfortunately my phone can only record for 15 minutes. But this series is really good. I'm not gonna, I obviously want to recommend it to everybody, but I understand that, you know, not everyone is a fan of fantasy. Some people might, you know, be uncomfortable reading it. I understand that completely. I personally loved it. I really love fantasy. And it was just, oh gosh, it's just really good. I get so attached to characters. I ended up, funny enough, this is something that's so weird. I feel like with every book series that I read, or every trilogy specifically, like Hunger Games, Maze Runner, this, I've always loved the second book the most. Like Siege and Storm, which is the second book in this series, I just absolutely loved. And I don't think it's just because my favorite character gets introduced, but for some reason, just the second book always, like in the Maze Runner series, The Scorched Trials was my favorite. In the Hunger Games series, Catching Fire was my favorite. So I don't know what it is about book 2, but book 2 just seems to always be my favorite. So anyway, I hope you guys liked this video. I hope I wasn't talking too fast. I just am still, like I said, like I literally just finished the series. I might post this like tomorrow. Right now it's Saturday night. You might be watching this at a different time because I might just need some time to just like gather my thoughts, but I wanted to film this now because I just had so many ideas going on, and I was just like, oh my gosh, I need to just get this all out there. And just, there's so many, you know, when something's fresh in your mind and you just want to write it down. It's like after you've gone on vacation or seen something, you want to just journal it because you're just like, oh, when it's fresh in my mind. Yeah, it's fresh in my mind right now, so I wanted to just anyway, I hope you guys are all doing well. Hope you guys all had a great week, are having a great weekend. I hope you guys are doing all right. I miss you guys a lot. I keep wanting to post more during the week, but it just gets to be a lot, and then I feel like I'm only able to post on the weekends, but I really do appreciate all you guys so much. This channel means so much to me. So anyway, I hope you guys are doing well. If you guys have any comments, questions, or concerns, do not ever hesitate to leave me a comment down below or shoot me an email at my email address, which will be right down here. Also, if you guys have any prayer requests, let me know of those as well. And as always, have a lovely rest of your day, and God bless.